Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 43 all time of Garbage Time Takes, closing in on 50. As always, I'm Derek here with the boys Dennis
Right.
and Bobby.
Hello?
Bob, welcome back. We missed you last week. Me and Dennis, I think, held down the fort rather adequately, but of course, it's always good to have you back, Bob.
Appreciate it.
We
Appreciate
certainly
it.
we certainly did, but nothing like having the whole crew here, definitely.
Correct. I
Dennis,
mean,
Dennis, I just got to get a quick question in. I can't see it from the camera. Are you wearing that Cincinnati Reds jersey? Yeah, I knew it. I knew
That's
it.
right, baby.
This
That's
this
right, baby.
this jersey for those viewers at home has seen more wear and more tear than potentially any piece of clothing ever from the state of Ohio. I mean, this
I
thing
think
has
that's a
been
pretty accurate
seen
statement. I really do think it.
all 50 states of the union, I'm sure, and maybe a couple foreign countries, because this thing is worn about twice a week, and you got to represent the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, I wish I kept track of the locations it's been, because it definitely has seen a lot of states, a lot of baseball stadiums, and maybe a few foreign countries. I mean, who even knows? Like, I have been to a few. I could have taken this along with me. It's very possible. A lot of wear.
Bob, let's not sleep on the Howling Scholarship. We know Dennis has been to a couple
Oh no.
countries.
Bring up the
We
Holland
know.
Scholarship.
Dennis, any
Any,
comments? Any comments from your significant other on the amount of wear the Cincinnati Reds jersey receives?
I think you just summed those up in your previous statement about the excessive amount of wear. It could have been, those exact words could have been said by, someone else, not to name names.
Okay, all right.
speaking of the Reds, I guess we can talk MLB to start the show. Dennis, the Reds started the
Very
season
badly.
off not being the last team in the Central, and you were in what, third place, fourth place this time last week, and just total and utter collapse. You're in the basement, losing to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Dennis, can you tell us? Can you tell us how has it gotten to this point where you're 3-7 in your last 10, and you can't get anyone to show up to the ballpark?
I mean, everyone knew that this was going to happen, to be fair. I'm just happy we scored some runs today, because we hadn't even scored a run in like almost 30 something innings at this point. I know we didn't score a run in the last two games against the Rays, and we didn't score a game until like the seventh tonight. So it's been a while.
Correct.
It's been a while. So it was good to finally put some runs on the board. Maybe that's the start of something. But the fact of the matter is, this team is not good. And I think I sent this to, I don't know. Actually, I might not have sent it to you, Derek. I should have. It was essentially an article that was written after Hunter Green's extension, but they had specifically mentioned that after this year, Joey Votto's $225 million 10-year contract is off the books, and the $22 million that we're paying this season to Mike Moustakas is finally off the books. And that's essentially half the freaking payroll right there between two guys who aren't even playing for our team right now. So, hopefully next year is different. But the fact of the matter is, this year, Bob Castellini is cheap, and he was drowning in some previous contracts that are, really hurting us now.
Not to mention,
Dennis, when does Ken Griffey Jr.'s contract come off
Dennis,
the
Yeah, I
books?
was saying, there you go.
Derek, you just cut me off. I was just about to say, not to mention that
Forgot to
Ken
mention
Griffey
that.
Jr. is making more money per year right now than about every player on the Reds roster except 3, I think.
Yeah.
Correct.
And one
I
of them,
think that's
that
either
might
over
even
this
be
year or next year,
that
too.
might even be including Mike Moustakas as one of the 3. So
Yeah, I mean, well, when you have Ken Griffey Jr., you pay a lot of money, and
Bob,
that money was deferred. The deferred salary.
the Bobby Bonilla salary is always going to come
Yeah,
back to bite you.
that's tough.
off the
Bob, the
books.
Detroit Tigers. Bob, how about them? I don't know how tightly you've been keeping track of the Detroit Tigers, but they've won a couple series in a row. They swept. Well, we'll say they swept the Giants.
And a
2-0 in a
two
three-game
gamer.
series. They swept 2 games of a 3-game series after they decided to delay a game for rain in which it never rained.
Correct.
It's one of
Out of
the I
abundance
think
of
it's
caution. Out of abundance
I
of
think
caution,
it's
Eric.
I think it's the first time I've ever seen a rain delay. It was, that was first for me.
Great. Yep.
But
Some
they're moving
meteorologist
and
somewhere is getting
grooving.
raked over the coals.
Correct. But the Tigers are moving and grooving. They've won, you know, a couple series in a row. They had what, 3 games straight with a walk-off to end it. I
Correct.
mean, they they're putting together a strong showing in the early season, Bob.
You know, it was looking like desperate times early on. And to be fair, this team, the offense has not really come along still. I mean, we're only putting up, you know, mediocre numbers at best on the offensive side of the baseball. But the real story that has been the last few outings for the Detroit Tigers has been the emergence of some mediocre to a little bit above average arms in the pen. The pen has
Correct.
showed up much better. I mean, through the first couple of series, as you were saying, Derek, the pen was a sieve in terms of giving up runs. I mean, if our starter didn't go deep, which they didn't always, but if they didn't go real deep, we were going to have real trouble. And we've been able to get some decent starts and then come in and close the deal, which has been
Correct.
helpful because we've been winning a lot of games. I mean, you look at these couple of games that we beat the Guardians, 1-0, 4-3. I mean, that's the Detroit Tigers' recipe for success this season because 4 runs is about the maximum that we're going to see in most of these games. We've seen a little bit more discipline at bats from some of these guys, which I tend to appreciate. Getting Miggy in there to hit a little dink dank to walk us off was always
Correct.
little nostalgia. But if we're being honest, the attendance at Comerica Park has been atrocious. It's been very, very bad.
As it should be for the owners fielding a non-competitive team.
Correct, but just kind of you know, like you said, kind of a trend in the league right now. A lot of teams getting some very, very terrible attendance numbers. One of which being the Cincinnati Reds, but. But the thing that's not going to help the Tigers is that the fact that they are just getting brutalized with this early schedule. I mean, I don't know who did the scheduling, but our next 3 games are against the Orioles. That's no walk in the park. The Brewers, that's no walk in the park. The Orioles again, that's no walk in the park. The Mets, yeah. So like you see where I'm going with this. This is like the next 15, 20 games against teams that are also all have some expectations. I would like to say thank you to the Chicago White Sox for stinking and falling to 4th in the Central. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're now 3rd in the Central. Like 3 games back first. But I love to see the improvement out of the pen. To be honest, most of these guys should be on as Dennis likes to say, a train back to Toledo. Because they
Toledo for you.
Well, Toledo for me, but Louisville for you. And because they're really just nobodies. But, give Chris Fetter, the pitching coach, credit. He's made a lot of guys, he turned Briefcase Joe around, and I never really thought I'd see that happen. We turned that into picks. So, maybe that can happen again with some of these arms in the pen this year.
Last, I'll sort of wrap up the Cubs. The Cubs are hot, baby. The Cubs are hot. We took, 2 out of 3 from the Mariners. We took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. We swept the Athletics in Oakland. Just absolutely random amok. The Cubs are hot. Currently, you may notice I'm a touch distracted looking down. I'm watching the Cubs-Dodgers game currently in a 2-2 tie in the bottom of the 8th inning, runner on third with 2 outs. Yes, that's correct. We are playing the Dodgers 6 times in 9 games, which is cruel and unusual punishment. And if you ask me, actually, we get 4 against the Dodgers. So we're playing them 7 times in 10 games. Thank you, MLB schedule makers. Then we get a nice little 3-game series with the Padres and a nice little 3-game series with the Marlins. So thank you, MLB schedule makers, for your kind treatment of the Chicago Cubs baseball franchise. But you know what? It doesn't matter because the Cubs are coming. We're getting healthy. Seiya Suzuki back. Kyle Hendricks on his way back. I mean, Cody Bellinger all of a sudden looks like the MVP. You got Marcus Stroman looking like an NL Cy Young. You've got Justin Steele looking like an NL Cy Young. You got Dansby Swanson, All-Star level. Nico Horner, All-Star level. Ian Happ, All-Star level. I mean, top to bottom, outside of the 6 through 9 hitters. The Cubs are hot. The Cubs are hot. Patrick Wisdom is among the league leaders in home runs. If we can get a first baseman that just doesn't ground into outs at second base every other at bat, we could be kicking. And also, if
I
we
gotta hear your
get
thoughts. Sorry, go ahead.
lastly, also if we can get a washed Tigers retread out of our bullpen and out of the ninth inning role, Michael Fulmer blown 2 saves, cost us 2 wins. As soon as we stop giving him run, this team will be much better off. Dennis, you had a question.
I do, because I just tuned in. I was actually, as you were talking, I flipped on the LA Dodgers Chicago Cubs game, and as I did so on MLB.com, the headline read, NL contenders trade home runs.
That's right, baby. That's right.
NL contenders. Is that a faulty headline? Is that a faulty headline, or
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's a fair assessment.
Wow.
The Chicago Cubs most certainly can be a contender, at least through the early season. I mean, they're most certainly playing like a contender. I mean, if David Ross would get his head out of his arse, we wouldn't have dropped 2 out of 3 to the Brewers.
Better than the St. Louis Cardinals.
Correct. And we've been mashing left-handed hitting. We're hitting .311. We're like number 7 in the league against left-handed hitting. And you know what we got coming up? 3 out of 4 left-handers for the Dodgers. We get Julio Urias, we get Clayton Kershaw, and we get Blake Snell in 3 out of the next 4 games. So, I mean, I ain't even scared.
Derek, the reason I laughed there was because as you were talking, and I'm sure you know, Michael Fulmer comes onto my screen out of the bullpen for the Chicago Cubs in the middle of that. Unbelievable.
He's probably going to throw. I don't understand why he keeps getting all the high leverage work. I mean, Keegan Thompson has been absolutely shoving to open the season. Brad Boxberger has been shoving. Oh, and what do you know? Michael Fulmer gives up a bloop single. Gives up a bloop single to the man who walked him off only a few short nights ago. I want this man off my roster, prompt and immediately. I have no idea why we keep giving him high leverage roles. So if we end up losing this one because Michael Fulmer came in and gave up a run, which would be, the least expected outcome, I'm going to be very upset. Other than that, I mean, I don't really think, Dennis, me and you went through the rest of the MLB last week. Not too much has changed, really. A couple, notable news. Oh my gosh.
And that's another hit.
They're first and second with no outs, and Michael Fulmer has only thrown 4 pitches against the bottom of the order, 6-7. So thank you, Michael Fulmer. Where was I going with this? Oh, yes, other notable news in the MLB. Dennis, one of the most legendary playoff starting pitchers, postseason pitchers, has been cut by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Madison Bumgarner today was DFA'd. Dude's making $25 million this season, and the D-backs are paying him $25 million to get off their team.
It was bad.
Just an absolute downfall for previously one of the game's most electric starting pitchers.
I can think of a few situations in which people are getting paid lots of money to not play for your team anymore because they're no good. That's unfortunate, though.
Mike Moustakas.
I don't know what that would feel like.
Don't know. And then the other notable news, in the wee hours of the morning, late, I mean, this podcast is going to go up on Friday, so in the wee hours of the morning, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, The Oakland Athletics announced that they have signed
They
a
did.
quote unquote binding agreement to purchase land in Las Vegas for the construction of a new stadium. So not only have Oakland lost the Raiders, they are likely to be losing the Athletics as well. And considering the absolute dumpster fire of a stadium, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, that's staying in the park. That's staying in the
Warning
park.
track. Mookie Betts to the warning track. Michael Fulmer served up a cutter straight down the old English Channel, and
For
nearly gave
now.
up a
For now.
nearly gave up a 3-run bomb. The double play is now in order because the runner from first did not advance to second. So we're still alive, but I'm fully expecting Jason Hayward here to screw me
Oh
over.
no, Jason
Because,
Hayward coming to the plate.
I mean, Jason Hayward for years, I watched this man for years. I'm pretty sure I ranted about him last year. The ground into double play king. We need him. We need the trademark Jason Hayward ground ball to second
And now
base
he
right
won't
here.
show up. Now he won't show up for you.
I'm sure he'll
Now
get a
it'll be the
3-run
classic.
homer over the scoreboard.
I was going to say it's going to be the other classic Jason Hayward special. The bloop into right field that should never have ever made it into right field and got
Correct.
down.
Correct. Here's hoping that doesn't happen. But I will certainly keep the podcast updated. But I didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on the Oakland A's moving likely to Vegas.
Into the Coliseum, I'm assuming. I mean, that's the end of an era. I don't know how long it's been there, but for a very long time. And one of the more historic sort of bowl shared stadiums that was between Vegas between the Raiders and A's. I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but it doesn't surprise me necessarily. I mean, Oakland is a fairly small market, and they've been obviously plagued by that and have had their long series of struggles. So it doesn't surprise me that they're trying to sort of tap into what has become a new and emerging sports market in Las Vegas. But yeah, a little sad to see the end of an era.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It just seems like verbal meme. Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, standing in the middle of the
Yeah,
empty living
yeah.
room. Uh,
Where's everybody at?
where's everybody at? That's how I
Yeah.
feel. And also the "How come nobody want me, man" meme. Uh, the A's have now gone from what? Kansas City to Philadelphia to Oakland, and now likely Las Vegas. How come nobody want the A's, man? How come nobody want the A's? But I mean, credit to the A's. I was, I don't ever watch Oakland because why would I ever watch Oakland except when they were playing the Cubs? Give credit to the A's for one thing. The elephant balancing on the ball logo, pure class. One of the best logos, in my opinion, of all time. The elephant logo for the Oakland A's. I don't know if you guys have any significant thoughts on the elephant logo for the A's. I mean, to
I
me,
do
it's
not.
just a classic. It's just a classic.
I appreciate classic logos as I do with the elephant on the ball. I think that this change was kind of writing was all over the wall for this one. I'm surprised that it didn't happen sooner, to be honest. I mean, it seems like the fans have kind of been battling with management, who's been kind of had one foot out the door for a while. The stadium is old. Their lease is up in a couple years.
Management also refuses to field a major league level baseball team.
Correct. Which means that you know what, we're going to move this operation to Las Vegas. It's sad to see a team that really hasn't, fielded a competitive product being rewarded with a market like Las Vegas, which is kind of becoming like you said, an emerging market. But it does kind of make sense. So hopefully the A's will turn into something a little bit bigger and better in Las Vegas. But I do feel bad for the fans of Oakland. But on the other hand, they've got enough teams out in that state to keep them occupied. They should be fine.
I mean, not to mention, even though they just moved across the bridge, but the Warriors also left Oakland. So I mean, 3 teams in a matter of like 6 years have all up and dusted Oakland and left them in their wake. So, big pour one out for the city of Oakland and fans of their professional sports franchises tonight. Dennis, me and you were talking about this a little bit before the pod. The NFL draft is a week from today at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Detroit Lions do not have a single clue of who they're going to draft. I mean, Bob, the board is just wide open. They can go quarterback, they can go offensive line, they can go defensive line, they can go cornerback. Teams could trade above them, guys could drop below them. A lot of smoke around Jalen Carter. Bob, what pick? Because you in the past have been known in our circle to be very adamant about certain players not being picked at certain draft positions when it comes to the Lions.
Yes.
What is your ban list for positions for the Lions at number 6 overall if they do choose to stay there?
I'll give you this is a great question, Derek. I'm glad you asked. I think that really there's a couple of positions that would come to mind for a notable ban list. Number 1 being quarterback. First and foremost, quarterback is a ban list at number 6. Just because our need at the quarterback position is not as great as another team who would be willing to give up assets to get the number 6 pick. And so I feel like we can sit tight in that spot and maybe attack a different draft if we feel that's our need. Trade back and get a little value. I'd really like a trade back scenario for the Lions this year. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with all the hype I'm hearing about, potentially, a lot of quarterbacks being running off the board early, or that's been brought up in a lot of scenarios. But you know what? It is draft day. You never know what's going to happen. Ban list at number 6, also corner. I do not want to see a corner off the board at number 6 for the Detroit Lions. We have a bad track record with that. We just saw the end of an era on another very high draft pick corner for the Detroit Lions that didn't turn out well. I think that
to be fair, that was not a corner that Brad Holmes drafted. That was a Bob Quinn special.
Correct.
So,
Correct. But I will get into point number 2. I think that we've also made a lot of additions in the defensive backfield that wouldn't necessarily mean that we can't draft a corner, because I definitely think we'll draft some more defensive backfield help, to kind of phase in after these, 1-year, 2-year deals kind of way out. But at the same time, I think you do that kind of move so you don't have to gamble on a corner at number 6 to come in and immediately be productive. I would like to see
Michael Fulmer just gave up a grand slam.
Grand slam. 6-2 Dodgers.
Sucks. Absolutely sucks. I don't even know why we pitch him anymore. It's crazy. It's crazy.
He threw an absolute
gives
meatball because it was 3-2 because he dirted the one on 2-2.
Well, it wasn't even a competitive changeup. Doesn't even throw a competitive pitch on 2-2. And what do you know? Straight down the English Channel. Straight down the English Channel to a guy that had already hit a home run on the night. Absolutely grooves a beach ball straight down the pipe and into the right field seats. It's incredible. Truly incredible. David Ross is brain dead. This is the 3rd time David Ross has cost us a game. 3rd time this season. The first one was for not having a right fielder in right field. And so a bunch of balls landed in right field, and those resulted in runs. The second one was when Michael Fulmer let the bases get loaded and threw a meatball down the middle and gave up a walk-off. And now here's time number 3. Michael Fulmer lets the first 2 runners on, gets Mookie Betts out. That should have been the end of it. Then he walks Jason Hayward, who's hitting 200 on the year, hitting 200, completely non-competitive at-bat, walks him, leaves him in, and then leaves him in to face a guy who's at the top of the order and has already hit a home run tonight. Full count, grand slam, game over. Game over. So thank you, David Ross, for nothing. I tell you what. I'm sick of David Ross. Sort of how, at the end of the Joe Madden era, and this was back in the old podcasts, I was I was laying into Joe Madden pretty thick in our old podcast, season 1. Feel free to check out those episodes on the Garbage Time Takes YouTube. Um, this is how I feel. How I felt about Joe Madden then, where I was like, it's time to go. It's just not it anymore. David Ross shouldn't have even been the manager to start the season. And now we have, we're 11-6, about to be 11-7, and that's because David Ross has single-handedly cost us 3 games. Rant over.
That's warranted. That's
I'm
warranted.
sick. I'm absolutely sick.
Yeah. So kind of, I guess, rounding back to the Lions discussion.
The NFL draft, yeah.
Rest in peace, Derek. However, yeah, banless corner for number 6, and quarterback at number 6. I think right now my 2 names, that I would be looking for, actually 3 names. I'm my number 1 if I had to, if anyone was available, realistically for the Detroit Lions at that spot. Willie Anderson's the guy that I want to be a Lion. Number 2 would be Jalen Carter. I've been pounding this desk. You can roll the tape for a defensive tackle to be drafted by the Detroit Lions, an interior defensive tackle to be drafted by the Lions, and I would love to see that at. I think that he's a guy that could be a difference maker for us. Potentially a corner at 18, although wouldn't kill me if we didn't. I really like the Witherspoon guy out of Illinois. I really think it would be kind of cool to pair him up with Kirby Joseph. Kind of worked well last time we went for an Illinois defensive back. Maybe pairing them up again would be kind of a good strategy. But like I said, first and foremost, I think if a deal's on the table right now, especially with some concerns around Jalen Carter, if that's the way you want to go, which is like the off the field stuff. Tyree Wilson, another option. Wouldn't be too mad about that either. I know there's been a lot of talk. I've at least read some articles that saying that there's a lot of people that think that that's the guy that the Lions have pegged. I think that's another great option. I need to see a quality defensive tackle being taken early. But the trade out is right now my number one choice with the 6th pick, just because I think the demand is there to where you could, depending on how the first couple of picks go, you could really get something for it. There's also been rumors that there won't be as many quarterbacks off the board with the first 4 picks as you think there will be. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's draft day, Dennis. As well as anybody, anything can happen. What are your thoughts, Dennis?
No,
I just need to say one more
sense.
thing. I just need to say one more thing because I'm stewing. Michael Fulmer couldn't hack it in the Tigers bullpen. The Tigers didn't even want this man. And we're giving him high leverage spots in the 8th and 9th inning? Are you serious? Now I'm done.
This was quality content.
Bob, give me some backup here. The Tigers did not want Michael Fulmer because he sucked so bad.
No, actually, I would disagree. The Tigers were giving Michael Fulmer a lot of run in high leverage innings. And the reason they could get rid of Michael Fulmer is because they were giving him a lot of run in high leverage innings, and he was doing pretty well. Michael Fulmer's career is a very interesting story. I can't believe I will say this for you, Derek. I can't believe Michael Fulmer is the option that you guys have to close. I would think that you guys would have somebody better than Michael Fulmer. Just being the fact that I feel like most teams have like somebody that kind of their designated closer. And if they're looking to bring somebody in, it's not Michael Fulmer. They're looking to bring in like a established closer. But Michael Fulmer was getting some good run out for the Tigers in high leverage innings, but I would think that you guys would have somebody that could be the closer. I like Keegan Thompson a lot. I don't know why he's not the guy if he's not going to be starting for you. The guy was shoving last year in a starting role. You know how much I liked him. So, I would just give him the nod. But
I just want to say Michael Fulmer played for 2 teams last year. And 6 save opportunities, he blew 4 of them. Granted, his batting average against was only 203 before he was traded to Minnesota. And then at Minnesota, his batting average against was 313. He gave up 3 home runs in 24 innings, so 1 homer every 8 innings pitched. Um, I don't know. I don't know. He was a former rookie of the year. He fell off a cliff harder than 30 pounds of cement off the side of a building. And I don't know. If the Tigers thought he was worth keeping around, they would have kept him. That's just what I think. If the Tigers truly thought that by the time they get to the end of their rebuilding window, because it's not like Michael Fulmer's 36 years old. And if they thought he was truly worth something, I guess maybe cutting bait and getting something for him from Minnesota is worth it. But I don't know. I don't know. At least during his Cubs tenure,
Keegan Thompson, Derek. Keegan Thompson. That's the only name
or
you need
Brad
to worry about.
Boxberger, we have two. Actually, we have 4 pitchers that can all pitch high leverage. Michael Rucker, awesome. Mark Leiter Jr., awesome. Brad Boxberger, awesome. Keegan Thompson has been absolutely shoving out of the pen. And for whatever reason, we've thrown Michael Fulmer out there 3 times and he's blown it 3 times. It's crazy.
Well,
It's
I
crazy.
gotta think. I mean, I'm obviously not David Ross, and here we sit here.
He should be
criticizing
fired.
David Ross some, but
He should be fired.
you gotta think this is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? There's no way he throws him back out there again in a high leverage situation after giving up a grand slam.
I wouldn't doubt David Ross. Dude's an idiot and doesn't know how to manage a bullpen. For a former catcher, it's amazing how out of touch he is with a bullpen. Truly amazing.
I suppose we will see.
I mean, I thought we had finally gotten over it when Brad Boxberger worked the ninth a couple nights ago, and then all of a sudden Michael Fulmer's back out here to flop his nuts on the table and screw us over again. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. Gosh, 162 games. We're only 18 games in, and I'm already losing my mind.
That's the way it goes, man. This game. I guess I'll circle back to the draft because I believe that there was a question about what you were talking about with no corner, no quarterback, Bobby, and I tend to agree with you. I think everything that you said makes a ton of sense, and obviously you've gone defense. You took blanked on his name, the defensive end from Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson. Thank you. Last year, to get a big guy in the middle makes a lot of sense for you guys. I understand that, but just to play devil's advocate, because I've heard this argument from some people, and as an outsider, it does make some sense. I don't totally agree with the logic, but it does make some sense.
Sure. Let me hear it.
And the logic is take one of the quarterbacks this year and have them sit, because this team should be good enough that you're picking in the 20s next year and for the next few seasons, and you're not going to get a good quarterback to replace Jared Goff at 20, whatever. And this is the only time you're going to have a pick good enough. So get him now and let him sit. What do you say to that?
I think that there is a little bit of truth to that, but I would also say, number one, if we're going to be good the next couple of years, at least a decent, it is the NFL, at least a decent portion of that is going to have to be due to the fact that Jared Goff is going to have to play well. If he doesn't play well, our ceiling is going to be probably what it was this year. 500, maybe a little bit above, like a touch above, right? And
fair enough.
And you're right, like that's not going to be that might not be a top 10 pick. It might not be a top 10 pick. But if there is a guy that is our guy, then sometimes you got to make a move for him. And that's just the fact of the matter. I don't think that Jared Goff will be bust city in the next couple of years. I think he'll be serviceable. If we get to the point where serviceable is not enough, then we're gonna have to we can attempt to sign somebody in free agency as well. That's not our we have some options when it comes to that. I also think that another big point of getting a defensive lineman specifically is that another weaker part of our um, defense that I expect it to be addressed during the draft at some point is our linebacking core. Now we've made some strides there. We had Malcolm Rodriguez, which had a very good year last year. Brought back Alex Anzalone as kind of a leader, a leading figure in the linebacking room, and he did show some promise towards the end of last season. But you're not really, Eric and I are kind of in lockstep on the point that we're not really pushing our chips to the middle of the table for Alex Anzalone. So let's get somebody that, besides, improving at linebacker, which there's been a lot of speculation that the Detroit Lions are going to make some moves when it comes to linebacking in the draft. Let's get a defensive lineman, a defensive tackle that can really help in that run support. That can really, take some. I mean, you could say this about any part of the defense. They all help each other, but run support. That's going to be your defensive lineman and your linebacking core. Let's most specifically working together. So let's have somebody that can take some heat off of them in those scenarios, and make the thing. Maybe cover up a few flaws, because as far as I've been seeing, there's not too many top tier linebackers who were really looking to take off the board with number 6 at least. So that's more of I've seen more mocks for like the second round, maybe second, third round kind of thing. The guy from Iowa I think has been brought up a bunch of times. So let's pump the brakes. As much as I like to see, Dennis, me, I love to see the flash names being picked. The new Ferraris, the new wide receivers, the new quarterbacks. The cool things, because they do give you a lot of hope. Because if you hit on those pieces, you're gonna have your next Jamar Chase, you're gonna have your next Joe Burrow, as you well know. But at the same time, this team had some glaring holes last season, and we were able to still put up a very competitive season and exceed expectations. So let's address those holes first, and then reevaluate following, once we've addressed those holes, have those holes been filled, and where do we think our deficiencies lie? And maybe
I think it makes a ton of sense.
Maybe after that it's quarterback.
Yeah, no, I get it. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the big problem with Detroit last season was the defense, and obviously you can point to the defensive line as being a big part of that. One of the things I do want to ask, just because
Sure.
I'm curious and I don't really know, where are we at with the off the field issues for Jalen Carter? I know obviously at the combine he left, came right back.
Sure.
And basically made a statement saying, I am confident that I'll be acquitted of all wrongdoing. When the process plays out and everything will be fine. I don't know if I've heard anything since then. So I'm just curious, because we're talking about a guy who was potentially number 1, number 2 overall. At least at one time I was hearing that. And he's probably going to slip because of some of these issues. And if those don't become a major problem, the Lions are getting a steal at 6 if that's what happens.
Yeah.
Athletically and on a football field.
Oh yeah. No, completely. I think that you kind of summed the situation up well, Dennis.
Okay. So I gave too much information.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, the thing is that I think that, just because of who Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are, I could see it being where we pass on Jalen Carter because that guy isn't, I don't know, doesn't fit our culture or whatever. You know how they're talking about the culture that they're building and guys that show up to work every day. But it also could be at the same time, we're gonna look past that because the tape is showing that this guy is a part of our culture. I could see
Sure,
both explanations being used for the same thing. I don't know. I didn't personally I don't personally know a lot about him as a player. I didn't watch too many Georgia games, but he's the top defensive lineman on the board. A lot of people have mentioned that he does have the high upside that you're talking about, Dennis, where he would have been potentially a higher pick. And we need a defensive lineman. So to me, it like kind of logically all seems to work out. I don't know. The same thing kind of happened a few years ago when we were talking about Ed Oliver. I mean, I'm pretty sure like a similar thing was going on. If I remember correctly, he had like maybe some off the field issues as well that were going on. I might be not remembering that correctly, but I mean, we didn't end up drafting him, but I remember really wanting him at the time because I was like, man, we need a defensive lineman to go next to John Pennicini, who has now just come out of retirement. I've come to find out, which is
He has the big penis now in Carolina.
exactly.
Get him back. Oh,
So,
no.
so it's very interesting. Sorry, long-winded, back and forth there, Derek, but hopefully that kind of summarizes my thoughts on the matter.
I mean, I was just stewing
I
for
know,
the
I
last
know, I
however many
understand.
minutes it's been. So honestly, I can't recall a single thing you guys said.
Okay.
Not a single thing.
So
So
I can give you a brief
so
summary if you want.
nope, that's fine. I know Jalen Carter was discussed. I know lots of other things were discussed. Some about the defensive line. All of a sudden, I heard John Penis.
Burn some time.
All of a sudden, I heard the Big Peen's name, and immediately
Snapped you out of it.
Snapped me out of it.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents in there for the
I'm
Lions.
very interested to hear.
Yeah,
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I fully trust Brad Holmes with whatever he does. I may not like drafting a quarterback. I may not like drafting a corner. But I think Brad Holmes has earned my trust, even though it doesn't really. Brad Holmes doesn't care what I think, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. But at the same time, it feels good to trust a general manager after the disaster that was Bob Quinn taking Jared Davis, Tez Tabor, Jeff Okuda, Jelani Tavai. I mean, that's 4 wasted first and second round picks. Just absolutely wasted for no reason. I'll give Bob Quinn credit for helping to build the offensive line. I believe Frank Ragnow was a Bob Quinn pick. I believe Taylor Decker was a Bob. I don't remember if Taylor Decker was a Bob Quinn pick, but I know for sure Frank Ragnow was, and I know Graham Glasgow was, who we just brought back. And maybe Jonah Jackson was a Bob Quinn pick. I'm not entirely sure, but it doesn't really matter. Like I said, Brad Holmes, I will trust whatever this man does because whereas in previous years it felt like the Lions were either just the same team or getting worse, they've done nothing but get better. And he's in a very unique position where he doesn't need to draft 4 impact starters. Last year and the year before that, he had to hit on 4 or 5 of his 7, 8 picks. I mean, you had to. And I mean, credit to him, he's hit on like almost all of them. Anybody who's been healthy, he's hit on. Obviously, Josh Pascal's had some injury issues. Levi Ruzarike has had some injury issues, and Ifeatu Melifonu's had some injury issues. Those 3 guys. But outside of that, I mean, look at what Derek Barnes has done. Look at what Malcolm Rodriguez has done. Obviously, Hutch was a no-brainer, but you still got to make the pick. Penei Sewell, obviously a no-brainer, but you still got to make the pick. And then getting late contributions. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th rounder. James Houston, late rounder. So, yes, I have full faith and trust in this man to do what he thinks is best. I think a lot of people get a little caught up in drafting for need instead of for current need instead of for the future. So if he were to draft a defensive back in the first round, that wouldn't surprise me one bit because we only have 1 cornerback signed through next year. And I don't remember where I saw. I don't know if it was a former GM that said it, but they said something along the lines of, if you're drafting for current needs, you're not going to succeed. Because there's always a contract extension you got to think about. There's always, depth you've got to think about. If we lose CJ Gardner Johnson in the first game of the year, who's going to be able to step in and fill that role. So Brad's in a really unique position where he can just take the best player available at any position he wants. Whoever they have on their big board and value the most, they're they're just at the luxury to be able to take that player. Like you, Bob, I hope they can trade back. If they were in the fifth spot, it would be much easier to trade back because maybe you get a team that wants to leapfrog for a quarterback. If the top three quarterbacks all go in the first four picks and Arizona makes a trade, we're stuck at six, and there's just nothing we can do. And even though it may look bad to take a cornerback there or some other position there, once you get out of the top 4 or 5, this isn't really, it's not a deep draft in terms of elite talent. There's a lot of very good talent. So that 6 through 10 range, a lot of those picks might be traditionally a reach. But with this draft, there's a lot of quality players and not a lot of elite players once you get out of the top 5. And so that's just going to be the way it shakes out this year. So hopefully too many Lions fans don't get too bent out of shape if they're like, you can't take a cornerback at 6. I mean, it's just if we don't have anyone to trade down with and that's our guy, you've just got to take your guy. So that's sort of my feelings, especially on the cornerback. In terms of Jalen Carter, because I know you guys talked about him a little bit, again, I trust Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's evaluation. If they think they can bring him in and he won't be a problem, I'm all for it. If they don't think he has a motor problem, not always giving 100% on the field, or if they identify that as a problem and think they can, whip him into shape to be a competitive, full go guy, that's it. But they have a very clear culture, um, and a very clear mindset. They want guys that love football. If you don't love football, you're not going to be in the Lions uniform. So if I'm going to be very interested to see if Jalen Carter gets past the Seahawks at 5, um, because how the Lions feel about Jalen Carter will be decided on whether they take him or not there. And that, I think, to me, is one of the most intriguing things of the draft. If they don't take Jalen Carter, that that sells me 135% that Jalen Carter is not the right guy for our organization. So fully trust whatever they
Sure.
decide to roll with there. Yep.
Sure.
Dennis, I don't know if you talked about the Bengals at all, because like I said, I was in a completely different, universe. Is there anything you want to talk about the Bengals, a successful team, a team that gives me hope that my Detroit Lions can turn it around as a franchise? Who do you guys got in the late rounds? I did see a couple months ago one of your beat writers for a fan site got in some mini Twitter beef with a prospect over what the beat writer, how he evaluated him. It was super funny, so I'm gonna look it up while you're talking about sort of where you see the Bengals going if you haven't already seen this.
One of the fun things, not fun things, one of the only times of the year where it's not fun to be a fan of an actual good team is the draft because we don't get to do anything. I mean, like when we were bad, like this was the time of year I looked forward to because we actually got into the conversation and got a top pick and got to, make some waves. But it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to be picking at 29, I think, 28 or 29. Not complaining at all. I think that this is an interesting spot because there's no gaping holes, and I still don't trust this organization in the draft. I can't. I'm not gonna. They've done better as of late. It feels like we've had some successful drafts. And I'm curious to see what they do this year. But it's always a toss up. Obviously, picking that late too is a little lower stakes than when you're picking in the top 5, 10. Go ahead.
I found it. So, Fan Nation put out this article. I don't know if this guy writes for Fan Nation, but Willie Lutz, host of the Same Old Stripes Bengals podcast, said that Tennessee Volunteers offensive line prospect Darnell Wright, quote, has no business playing right tackle, end quote. And Darnell Wright was not happy about that. He said he DM'd Willie Lutz and said, "You're a pure D eater. What year did you play to say anybody has any business doing anything?"
Oh,
So Mr. Wright was not happy. Even though one tweet earlier, Willie Lutz had said, "It honestly wouldn't surprise me if Darnell Wright goes within the first 15 picks." Um, and then eventually, Darnell Wright and Willie had some more DMs and apologized for his comments very clearly. His agent was like, "You bozo, fix this," as a
yeah. I was like,
PR
I think if
stunt.
Darnell Wright is getting worked up about Fan Nation, Bengals stripes, and whatever that I've never heard of comment on article that is just unnecessary. Something that could have easily been ignored if you weren't searching for it, and not something that I want to deal with at all in any fashion.
Correct. So that was what I was referring to. Willie Lutz being called a D eater by a NFL draft prospect for disagreeing with the fact that Darnell can't play right tackle. Also, the guy was
No, I
trying to say
mean,
is he's a better fit at guard than tackle. That was pretty much it.
I'm sure that here's the thing is I don't necessarily envy this part of it. I'm sure it's a very tough part of it, but for any draft prospect, I'm sure there's about 50-50 on people who say that they should not go in the draft and people who say they should be in the top 15 picks. Like it just there's going to be such a wide range of opinions, and that's what the whole draft is, and that's why we don't know what's going to happen. And as you and I were talking about before, it's almost harder to predict what would happen in the draft as it would maybe a March Madness bracket. It's so many possibilities, and like we've talked about the whole podcast, it's draft day. You never know what's going to happen. To that point, it seems though all indications point to the Cincinnati Bengals taking a tight end in this very tight end deep draft. Um, Probably going to see Michael Mayer off the board already, which is the tight end out of Notre Dame. There's a couple guys that are also potential late first rounders. Dalton Kincaid from Utah and a guy from Oregon State. His name is escaping me. And then there's also a tight end from Georgia that has got some hype around him at the current moment. So I could see them going that route. Obviously, lost Hayden Hurst on the offseason, so he's no longer with us. We did re-sign. Um, Man, lost it. I'm not my sharpest tonight. I apologize. Our backup tight end, who we signed several years, who we drafted like 3 years ago in like the third or fourth round, who's been hanging around with the organization as a backup. I really want us to go, maybe not the best choice, but I want us to take a running back. Obviously, Bijan's probably going to be gone, unfortunately, or I would say take Bijan Robinson. Jahmyr Gibbs is like really, really, really fast dude out of Alabama. I think that would be pretty sweet. And the problematically, making it sound like I want the new shiny toy and whatnot. It's not even that. It's just that I'm so done with Joe Mixon. I've made my thoughts on that very clear in this podcast. And we let Samaje Perine go, which was a dumb move. And we just
At
don't
least
have
he won't
anything
be.
coming
At
up the
least he
pipe.
won't be. He won't be a touchdown vulture anymore. Screw Samaje Perine, always screwing me out of Joe Mixon fantasy points.
Samaje or Joe Mixon won't even be on the field, so there's nobody to vulture from anymore.
Yikes!
So that's not an
Yikes!
issue. I don't have to get into all that. There's a million ways we could go, and honestly, I won't be upset regardless. I think obviously safety is a need as well, but we already are young at that position. I wish we would have signed a veteran, to be honest, after losing Von Bell and Jesse Bates, because we have Dax Hill, who will definitely be stepping up and have to play a bigger role this season. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they went safety. I think there's some options there, but to have two really young guys back there in the secondary might be a little bit of an issue. And I think it kind of speaks to what you said earlier, Dirk, which is drafting for need is not always the best route to go. So I think it'll be interesting to do. I don't know what the contract situation is with some of the guys that are coming off rookie deals pretty soon. Like I know linebacker is sort of in that run with Logan Wilson. So yeah, we'll see. Long and short of it is, I think that they could not really make a mistake in my mind. But I have a feeling they're going to take a tight end, which I'm not necessarily thrilled about because the last time we did that, it was Tyler Eifert, but it's okay.
Other NFL news, only a couple little blurbs I wanted to bring up. The Arizona Cardinals, a few short hours ago, released new uniforms. So I'll see if it comes up very well here. And
Oh,
not
yeah. I see it.
yeah, it comes up all
Nice,
right
nice.
for those of you who are watching literally on any sort of mobile device or computer. Feel free to check it out yourself. Um, Verbal meme, Pam Halpert, they're the same picture. The Cardinals uniforms don't look that much different from the old ones. I will say they're white ones. A big fan of the white ones. But it's their white ones and their black ones are the same exact jersey with the same exact design, just different colors. Feels like they could have done something a little more special than just invert the color scheme, basically. Um, don't really know why the Cardinals are rebranding with new uniforms and looking like a JV football team. Uh, but it doesn't really matter. The only other little blurb I wanted to bring up, Bob, did you see what the Lions did today?
New deal with Coke.
New deal with Coke. Are you aware of what they did yesterday?
No, I'm not.
So yesterday, the Lions account tweeted this out, not the Ford Field account. The Lions account tweeted this out. It was Rory, the mascot, walking into Ford Field down the tunnel with a big box. That I don't remember what it said on the box. Something like secret something. It was something or other. And so they teased this like something huge is going to happen, and everyone thought because the Lions can get new helmets this year, with the whole two helmet rule, everyone thought the Lions were going to be revealing the new helmet, me included. And so they teased this, right? And all it is this new deal with Coke. And Lions fans were, I was salty. Lions fans were triggered. They're like, you guys did all of this, teased a full day release just to say we're going from Pepsi to Coke. Granted, that's the right move because Coke products are superior to Pepsi products. Um, but I tell you what, I will miss the four pillars uh with the old Pepsi bottle. That was a traditional look.
Correct.
But yeah, let's just yeah. If you haven't seen it, just look at the Lions Twitter, and then it was disgusting. A disgusting act by Randy Moss, if I've ever seen one. We can talk a little NBA playoffs. I don't think we'll talk too much NHL playoffs. I don't know how much either of you have really paid attention to the NHL playoffs. Even I haven't hardly paid any attention. Dennis, have you paid much attention?
I've been watching them. Yeah, I've been watching more than the NBA. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, okay. Well, Dennis, give us a rundown
Comes
on
as
who
a
you're.
surprise to most people.
Yeah, give us a little rundown on who you think the strongest teams are. All I saw was that the Leafs got absolutely dumpstered in game one. I saw the
Yeah, and
Oilers
they came
choked
back
game
tonight and
one.
absolutely dumpstered Tampa Bay,
Oh,
seven to
okay.
two.
I feel like a lot of um the series are tied at one. Florida came back and beat Boston. Edmonton, I think, came back and beat the Kings, right? Um,
Edmonton came back and beat the Kings after losing a dumb game in overtime that they should not have lost in game one. They're the better team
choked
in
it.
that series. Um, Not even close, even though that series is tied 1-1.
The
Stars came
Canes are
back
up
and beat
2-0, right?
Minnesota.
Are the Canes
Canes
up
are up
2-0
2-0. Yeah,
after a
Canes
very
are up 2-0.
controversial missed high sticking call that resulted in a
Yes.
goal?
And the Rangers are up 2-0 now after a win tonight. The Rangers are
Okay.
up 2-0 on the Devils. Maple Leafs Lightning is tied at 1 after the 7-2 victory today from Toronto.
And the Lightning
And
won
then,
7-1 or 7-2 in game one?
gosh, I think it was 7-1.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a blowout. So back-to-back blowouts on opposite sides there. And then there's two games going on right now. We got both tied at 2, actually. Both tied at 2. The Kraken and Avalanche and the Jets and the Golden Knights, Bobby. The Vegas Golden Knights.
Let's go Knights.
How are the Kraken are up 1-0 and the Jets are up 1-0, right?
That's correct. Yes. The Kraken are up 1-0, the Jets are up 1-0, and then those game twos are both tied at 2. So lots of twos going around.
First ever playoff win in franchise history for the Seattle Kraken. Not that they've been
That was right.
around that
In
long,
game
but
one.
yes, in game one.
This is year 2, right? They were
This is
first
year 2.
expansion
This is year
last
2.
year. Yeah.
Yep, this is year 2, first playoff. I think this is their first playoff appearance. I don't think they made the playoffs.
Yeah,
and got swept last year.
I got a little sprinkle on the in the Rangers in the East, and then a little sprinkle on the Oilers in the West.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
we're going for it here.
Don't mind that. But yeah, I think that's the perfect NHL recap. Bob, the NBA is bussing.
NBA
I
is
mean,
busting.
how about the Warriors? 27, was it 27 straight series not falling 0-2? I know it was since 2007 and the entire Steph Curry era in which they had not ever been down 0-2 in a series. Draymond Green goes full Draymond Green, never go full Draymond, but Draymond went full Draymond, got himself suspended for this one. The Warriors currently up 84-72 at the end of the third quarter in game 3, of which the Sacramento Kings been lighting the beam all year.
Yep.
They've been through the first 2 games, Draymond was the story, Sabonis was the story. Sabonis has been absolutely baiting Draymond all series. But I mean, the Kings have just been, at least in those 2 games, the better basketball team. And the Warriors told us who they were all season, a terrible road
Terrible
team.
on the road. Yep. Yeah. I think that's a very, very fair summary. Just not enough to get over the hump from the Warriors in the first 2 games. I mean, they would seem to make a flurry of a barrage of shots as they normally do, and the Kings would seem to match them. They would come right back. Sabonis was almost a complete non-factor. Draymond had him on absolute clamp city. Sabonis was too busy, trying to get in Draymond's head and bait him into getting suspended, which he did. But unfortunately, he didn't get him suspended for more than just one game, because the Warriors are looking like they're going to take advantage of this one, though far from over. Got a quarter to go. Suns Clippers, one series I've been paying very close attention to myself, is another good one. The Suns are up just by 10. They're by 10 now. They were actually down early.
And the Clippers do not have Kawhi.
Yes.
For this game.
Yes, they don't. And
no Paul George for the series.
Yeah, the real story being, having to bank on Russell Westbrook to kind of fill the role since Paul George is not there. The first game, I saw him get a lot of praise. Box score was ugly. It was a 3 for 19 shooting performance for Russ in game 1. But
he made the defensive stop when it counted.
Although he did make a big defensive play at the end, you're right. Had a better shooting performance in game 2, but they still lost. I think that one will go the distance, if you have to ask me. I think that one will go the distance. 76ers molly-whopping the Nets. No surprise there.
Yeah, the Nets just don't have any stars.
Have the firepower. Lakers Grizz 1-1.
Big bounce back for Memphis.
Very, very fun series to watch so far. You've got the Lakers.
Dylan Brooks is poking the bear, Bob. Is he? When you come for the king, you best not miss. And Dylan Brooks is playing a dangerous game, Bob. Even as one of the biggest LeBron haters of all time, I can acknowledge that you don't want to get LeBron James
mad.
Going.
Yeah, mad LeBron. Even like you said, you're a big LeBron James hater. Even bigger LeBron James hater, Skip Bayless says you do not want to see mad LeBron James, and if he says it, then you know it's true. So
correct.
So yeah, I mean, story of the first game, just a lot of bench life out of the Lakers, which is really it's the story of the Lakers. Half the time, every single role player will show up. AD will show up instead of being always disappointing Davis. He'll be all day Davis. Um, in game 2, the exact opposite happened. LeBron James, game 1, LeBron James, had 20 points and like nearly triple double, but pretty pedestrian numbers by his standards. Game 2 comes back with almost a 30 bomb, 28 points. Has a much better game offensively, and just can't get anybody to go along with him. Anthony Davis had a terrible night, and the role players just didn't come along with him as much as they did in the first one. Even with Ja being out, the Grizzlies still have a very, very deep team. Ja isn't their only option.
Bob, I don't want to steal your right bench baller. So tell me if I'm about to.
Well, you're my
Still
right bench
mine.
baller.
You're about to steal mine.
Right bench baller
Okay. Well, we'll save it then.
is
We'll
from that
save it then.
series.
But let's just say there's a certain Michigan State Spartan right bench baller. There's actually two Michigan State Spartans on that roster, but there's one very specific right bench baller. We'll save it for the segment, Dennis. I won't out you.
Correct. Some great performances from both sides. I just don't know why Dylan Brooks always feels the need to open his mouth when he continually does close to nothing.
I think it's good for basketball, though.
It is good for
basketball.
basketball.
Good to have a villain.
It's
good to have a villain.
It is good to have a villain. You just wish that the villain was actually could do something.
Talented.
Because Dylan Brooks just can't do anything besides jaw, pretty much.
Correct.
And he's only relevant when he jaws.
LeBron gave him a 28-piece, no sweat, and he's like, I'll give him respect when he drops 40. As if dudes in the NBA are just dropping 40 every single night. LeBron, again, biggest LeBron James hater outside of Skip Bayless. LeBron is 38 years old. And
he was averaging 30 a game.
And you're out here saying, nah, Miami Heat LeBron would have gave me more of a challenge. Cleveland LeBron would have gave me more of a challenge.
Doubt.
As if 38-year-old LeBron ain't giving you 28 off the dome like it's nothing. Come on. Come on.
And people are saying, oh, that was just mediocre from LeBron James.
Correct.
With a 28 off the dome and 10 boards.
When the expectations are so high that you're dropping 30 a night, and they're saying mediocre performance from LeBron James. I will give respect where the respect is due. But I do love that Dylan Brooks is just out there being a menace, because I think it's good for the game of basketball.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun series. I think this one will also go 7 if I had to guess. The Lakers have all of the pieces, which makes me so irritated. They have all the pieces to finish this in 5 games if they really wanted to. They have the best 2 players on the court. They have, bare minimum, and they have very solid role players that when possible can show up, any given night. And
Rui Hachimura had another 20-pointer.
That's right. He did. And, Austin Reeves been showing up. D'Lo can show up. Vanderbilt has put up some solid numbers. Dennis Schroeder has come out and had some 20 pieces, with sauce on the side for us on a few occasions. So it's really just a matter of, and that's always been the thing throughout LeBron's career. That's been a big storyline. Everybody else, they play anywhere else, and they're as solid as role player as they come. They come to LeBron and they crap their pants. That has been the storyline. Game 1, I was encouraged. I was like, man, we're going to finally shake this narrative. But, it didn't happen like that. But, to be fair, role players do tend to play better at home. And now it's going to be 2 games at the Crypt. So I'm excited to hopefully, as a LeBron supporter, to be boosting, to hopefully take a 3-1 lead, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then just to, briefly recap a couple of the other ones. Celtics-Hawks game, non-competitive series. That is 5 games max. The Nuggets-Timberwolves, that series is a wrap. That's in my opinion, 5 games max. I'm sure the Timberwolves take one at home here. The Cavs-Knicks, very interesting first 2 games. The Cavs get their first playoff win since LeBron left. Donovan Mitchell at the helm. They, spread the ball out a little bit more. Darius Garland actually took some shots in the fourth quarter in this one. Donovan Mitchell wasn't, just being an absolutely ball dominant point guard as he was in game one, even though he scored a lot. But the Cavs are a better team when they share the ball more. That came up in that game against the Knicks. And Bob, will Tom Thibodeau ever learn? Will he ever learn? Leaving Julius Randle out there down 20 and he nearly tears his ACL because Jarrett Allen goes for a chase down block. Will Tom Thibodeau ever learn from what he did to D Rose? Will he
Tom,
ever learn?
no, Tom will not learn. He's stuck in his ways, and Tom Thibodeau is one of those hard nosed, we're gonna play to the buzzer kind of coaches. I've had coaches like that in the past where we're down by 30 with about a minute to go, and it's like, okay, if we do everything right, we're still gonna pull it out. And it's like, okay, well, no, that's not really what quite's going to happen. Let's get him out of the game. Um, yeah, just disaster, and lucky it didn't result in anything more because that could have been a fireable offense in my opinion. That is just
I
disgusting.
agree.
I like the Cavs in this series. I think the Cavs
So
are the
do I.
better. I think the Cavs are the better team when they play like it. The Knicks are also kind of have the thing going, kind of like the Dallas Cowboys effect, where it's like anything that can go wrong will go wrong for the New York Knicks. So I'm kind of just expecting that to kick in at some point. I thought that was going to be the moment, honestly. Right then, when when Julius Randle, nearly lost a leg. Yeah. So I like the
We shall
Cavs in
see.
that one.
Yeah. And for those of you that didn't watch last week's pod with me and Dennis, I sort of briefly touched on how I thought the NBA playoffs would shake out and said that you really didn't need to watch any of the Eastern Conference series because it was going to be pretty much chalk. Maybe tune into the Cavs Knicks because that'll probably be the
Really
most
close.
competitive series. But I mean, the Sixers are going to take care of business. The
Chalk.
Celtics are going to take care of
Chalk.
business. And the Bucks come back and beat the Heat without Giannis. They get 17 from Joe Ingles, 22 from Pat Connaughton, and 16 from Grayson Allen. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They blow out the Heat by 16 at home. And I don't think the Heat probably have, the firepower to hang with the Bucks for the rest of the series. And I don't know about you, Bob, but that seems like a series that's gonna at most go 6 games.
I agree. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of that, we covered the rest of the Western Conference. The Suns are up 13 on the Clippers at the moment. The Warriors up 16 with 8 minutes left on the Kings. Likely no beams will be lit tonight. But yeah, definitely, like I said last week, keep an eye on some of these NBA games because even Dennis, prolific regular season NBA hater Dennis, said that many of these games are far more interesting in the playoffs, and they'll only get more interesting as we weed out all of these, non-contending bottom four teams in each conference, Lakers included. Um, Winners and losers. If you guys don't have anything else, I don't have anything else specifically I want to talk about. So Bob, since you're, coming back, let's start you off with the winner of the week.
I'm gonna go with none other than Kerry Carpenter this week for my winner of the week. Had a big walk off bomb during one of those games. I believe it was one of them against Cleveland. I'm not for sure though.
He might have had two because
Might
I
have had a
thought he had
couple
a grand.
actually.
I thought he had a game winner against the Giants.
Yeah,
Um,
they're all flowing together for me. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, when you hit three in a row, three
Correct.
walk-off wins in a
Correct.
row.
Correct. Yeah, Kerry Carpenter though, coming in absolutely clutch. Um, some of these young bats are starting to get going a little bit for the Detroit Tigers, him included. Um, yeah, just really really exciting to see him in the lineup basically every day now. It's kind of a no-brainer. Now that he's getting the bat going a little bit, but just in a team that was really slouching, Kerry has kind of come on as of late and some clutch hits. I feel like I got to give him the winner of the week. Because I have somebody else in mind for right bench baller, so you got to go with the backup for the winner of the week.
True. Dennis, you're a winner.
Yeah, I two here really, and I can't decide, but I think I got to go with the serious inspirational one. winner of the week would be Liam Hendricks. White Sox closer.
Yes.
He's been around the league a little bit. Announced on, I believe, Instagram that he is cancer-free. So, shout out to Liam. Congratulations. Everyone's very happy to hear that.
I feel like, Dennis, I could have sworn we touched on that either last week or 2 weeks ago that
We
he was
did.
getting pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like something that we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, very serendipitous that happened for today's pod, I think. My winner of the week, breaking streaks. Like I mentioned, the Warriors streak was broken by the Kings of consecutive series not starting out 0-2. The other significant streak, 0-13, Bob. Do you know who broke an 0-13 streak?
I actually don't. Fill me in on that one.
Chris Paul's record against Scott Foster in
That's
the playoffs,
right.
Bob.
That's right. You're right.
Chris
You're
Paul was 0-13
With Scott Foster reffing.
with Scott Foster officiating in the playoffs. And he finally snapped it when the Suns beat the Clippers a couple nights ago. So congratulations, Chris Paul. Finally, Scott Foster shows him some sweet, sweet mercy. Broken streaks, my winner of the week. Bob, you're a loser.
I'm going with none other than Max Scherzer for loser of the week. Just because he caught a stray and caught an absolute suspension, caught a 10-gamer from the MLB for some alleged sticky substance use. He's already announced that he's not going to appeal the decision.
I thought he was going to
He
appeal.
was appealing. I thought he was appealing. Yeah.
I will check that, but
Oh, we've got to fact check Bob. This is a pivotal moment in a seminal moment in Garbage Time Takes history.
This is really funny because me and Derek were talking about this right before we got going here, and he had said that was potentially one of his losers, and I didn't have anyone, and so he had suggested
3 hours ago, will not appeal. Will not appeal his suspension. Article posted today at 7:53 p.m.
Interesting.
He initially believed he would be he initially thought he was going to appeal because he thought it would be a neutral arbitrator, but later learned that it was going to be an MLB representative that would be arbitrating the appeal, and so therefore he decided that it wasn't going to be worth an appeal.
Probably right.
So he is not going to appeal, which means that I got to miss not only half a start from him this week, I'm going to miss another start from him next week because he's going to be out. So thank you very much, MLB. Screw ya. And I needed his fantasy production. So that's a loser of the week.
I mean, Dennis.
MLB.
I mean, how coincidental is that Bob's loser of the week was Max Scherzer?
I mean, we got. Luckily, I thought of an. Luckily.
You did think
Otherwise,
of another one. Okay.
It would be cold water, and we already talked about it at length, so I won't spend too much time on it. But in my opinion, Draymond Green, absolutely looking like a fool per usual, looking like an absolute bozo on the court per usual, and deservedly suspended. Should have been for longer.
Oh my gosh! That's gross.
Whatever.
That's a horrible take. That's a horrible take.
That's not a horrible take.
That's a horrible
That
take.
is a get off my lawn take.
That's a horrible take.
I agree, Bob.
Dude is a horrible human being. A horrible human being.
Dennis hasn't watched a lick.
Strong claim.
Dennis hasn't watched a lick of this series, and he's trying to tell me that
I have to watch the series. All the clips I've seen of Dre, he's always doing something horrible. He's always doing something to stir up drama, to be an absolute freaking diva. He is the epitome of what is wrong with the NBA. The epitome. The epitome.
Just because he kicks people in the nuts, that makes him a horrible human being?
I don't go around kicking people. I don't go around kicking people. If we did, people would call us horrible human beings. Deservedly so. For no reason.
Fair point. Fair point. My loser of the week. IGCs, aka what I like to call improperly groomed cup, aka it's not my fault when a putt lips out aka Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth absolutely choked down the stretch at Harbor Town Golf Links for the RBC Heritage. Matt Fitzpatrick ends up winning the playoff hole number three playoff holes, if I remember correctly, Dennis.
It was 3. Yes.
And Jordan
With
Spieth
putts to win it on like all of them.
he definitely had putts to win on the first 2 playoff holes, and both of them lipped out. Just mind blowing to have 2 lip outs back to back. I mean, Dennis, take the break out of the putt and hit it. I thought it was, especially after he missed the first one, I was like, surely this time he's just going to try and go center cup and just really zip it in there. And instead he played the break and it went under, and he lipped out and ended up losing because he ended up shanking his tee shot.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, obviously, we're talking about a really difficult game here, and we're putting a small ball into a small little cup from hundreds of yards away.
I would have hit the putt, Dennis. I would have all the pressure in the world for the RBC Heritage for my share of $20 million. I would have hit the putt. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
I'm Bob.
Sure. Positive.
Bob, you're right bench baller.
Well, Dennis, sorry if I'm going to screw you twice here, but I hope I'm not. I'm going with none other than Rui Hachimura for my right bench my right bench baller. I've had this one picked out since it happened. Knew it was going to happen. Man will average 11 points a game during the regular season. Kind of a late season addition for the Lakers at the trade deadline. There was a lot of hope that he had have a lot of potential, can be something off the bench. He was showed a lot of flashes for the Wizards, had some big games, but nobody expected this. First playoff game of his career, I believe, comes out with 29 points and 6 boards on 11 of 14 shooting from the field, and not to mention 5 of 6 from 3. Absolutely sniping from distance, and ended up, in a game that was, the score didn't really reflect how close the game was for most of the game. Every time the Grizz seemed to make a 3, Rui would seem to be right there to make one of his own. So, nice job, Rui. Glad you didn't wet your pants in your first game playing with LeBron James on your team. Keep up the good work.
Dennis, you're right bench baller.
I am happy to hear that you did not take my right bench baller because I did not have a backup. But I'm going with none other than the opposite side of that series, and Xavier Tillman. Xavier Tillman, averaging 7 points a game and 5 rebounds, dropped 22 with 13 rebounds and threw in 3 assists for fun in the Game 2 victory over those LA Lakers. But shout out MSU.
Jaren Jackson, Defensive Player of the Year. My right bench baller, not because, he had a super tremendous performance, but because of what he means to the game of basketball. That would be none other than B-Ball Paul. Paul Reed of the Philadelphia 76ers. B-Ball Paul, an absolute legend. Currently, in Game 1, he played 13 minutes, scored 11 points, added 4 boards, 2 steals. Game 2, 11 minutes, 6 points, 75% from the field, 3 boards and an assist. And then today, against Brooklyn in 10 minutes, 2 points and 6 boards. 6 boards in 10 minutes. How about it? Paul Reed, stuff in the stat sheet and very limited action. B-Ball Paul, a legend of the game. So shout out to B-Ball Paul. I have a couple honorable mention winners and losers. Dennis, do you still have an honorable mention winner? I thought you mentioned you had 2 of them before we started the show.
I do. I have one guy I would like to mention, Alex Verdugo, who you guys both know that I'm a big fan of. I don't know if you saw this or not, but hit a walk-off the other night. And then the reason that he's a winner is because he's a legend. And I don't know if you saw the interview, the post-game interview, but if you haven't, go check it out. Dude is an absolute legend. Throwing out, just real talk I'll say, on live television.
Dennis,
Real talk.
Dennis, was he breaking FCC guidelines?
Is probably breaking some broadcast guidelines. The on the field reporter had to remind him that they were on live television. We'll say that. Just a legendary clip. Shout out Alex Verdugo.
Yeah, I've got a couple honorable mentions, mostly losers. I'll check my notes real quick and see if I have a winner as well. No, I do not. So, a couple honorable mention losers. Kawhi Leonard. Bob, I wanted to ask you this. Charles Barkley verbal meme. We're going to start a dialogue. Bob, should Kawhi Leonard have the street clothes nickname and take that from Anthony Davis? Does Kawhi Leonard have earned the street clothes moniker at this point? Because all this dude does is load manage and then get hurt anyways.
Yes, I'm glad you bring that up, Derek, because one of the superstars I dislike the most out of any in the NBA is Kawhi Leonard. And it's for exactly that reason. People forget that he literally quit his way out of San Antonio, by saying that there was for a year and a half he was injured, and then the team had cleared him like 17 times to play, and then
they mistreated him and
then
led him astray.
Whatever, yada yada yada. Then he wanted to be gone. Okay, so he gets gone, goes to Toronto, load manages up the wazoo because he's still injured from whatever he had going on at San Antonio, ends up winning the chip, but plays 3 games a year, and then plays in the playoffs. Goes to the Clippers, does the same exact thing, load managing all the time. Paul George is hurt all the time. I don't know who's marching out there for the Clippers because this is getting ridiculous, as the meme goes. But this man is the epitome of load management. And the thing is, at least with street clothes, Davis, at least street clothes, at least he's kind of hurt.
He wasn't load managing and then getting hurt. He was just getting hurt because he's made of glass.
At least you could see him leaving. He'd take a hard fall or something, or get clobbered across the face or something, and you'd be like, okay,
or a freak ankle sprain.
At least you could see that there was probably there was a potential for an injury. Kawhi Leonard, you go out there and it's just nothing. He's just managing.
Constantly injured.
It's just load managing.
Yeah.
Single-handedly created load managing rules in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard, because of how much he was sitting.
Yeah, he single-handedly spearheaded the load management movement without question. I mean, you mentioned it the way I also feel the same way, that he forced his way out of San Antonio by just sitting himself with some mystery injury and calling him get load management. So yeah, I just thought, that Anthony Street Clothes Davis gets a lot of, and deservedly so, gets a lot of flack for being made of glass. But to Glass Leonard, I mean, he very well may deserve the Street Clothes nickname more than Anthony Davis. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that as well. My other loser of the week, not for what he did on the court with his 3 for 19 shooting performance, but what he did off the court at halftime in Game 2, Russell Westbrook beefing with a fan for no reason other than the fact that he gets butthurt and salty at the slightest of insults. Dude acts like he's going to walk through the suites at the opposing team stadium and get cheered or something. I don't know what he's thinking. But yeah, so it's just a soft move. It's a clown move. It's a soft move to go after some dude who's chirping you while his 8-year-old son is just trying to eat a slice of pizza. You just look silly. You just look silly. And maybe the son should consider removing the COVID shortcut, because I believe that's why he was there in the first place, as it was the old COVID shortcut. So the son should probably consider limiting access, especially for opposing teams' players. But yeah, I thought it was a total bozo the clown move from Russell Westbrook to go fight with some old dude. But yeah, We can move in to Garbage Time Takes Your Money. As mentioned last week, we didn't have one because Bob unfortunately was not here. But Bob, just in case you were unaware of how the results ended, we had the Orioles Yankees triple play with Dean Kramer strikeouts added. The Orioles won the over on the money line of 8.5 hit, and Dean Kramer's 3.5 over K's hit. So I went 3 for 3. Dennis went 1 for 2, getting the over on the total, and you went 2 for 3 because you took the Yankees. So overall, a strong week for Dean Kramer supporters, me and Bob.
Yeah, I'm gonna come at you guys with another.
Are we gonna get a twofer, Bob? Are we gonna get a twofer for the people since we missed last week?
I was gonna hit you with
Another triple play?
another triple play here.
Why not 2 triple plays, Bob? One from the NBA, one from the MLB.
I
Can we
mean,
work that?
I
Can
mean,
we work
I
that?
mean,
my
we
gosh.
can work it. Let me tell
I
you.
mean, if
Putting
you
Bobby
if,
to
if you
work here.
if you
Put him
need
to
some
work.
time, to find a game, I'm really good at stalling.
No, we got.
Um,
I got
nope,
a
you've got it.
very
You've
a
got it.
very fun third bet for us in this
Okay.
next one.
All right, let's hear it.
All right. So the game that we're gonna do, you know what? I know that I have a tendency to sometimes choose teams that I like a couple times. So I'm trying to start out with doing some teams that I wouldn't normally choose. We're gonna start in the MLB. We're gonna do the Kansas City Royals at the LA Angels. A team, a couple off the wall teams. Shohei
Correct.
Ohtani on the mound for the Angels tomorrow. And then guy by the last name of Clark for the Royals. Never heard of him.
No namer. No namer.
Absolute no-namer.
That tells you what you need to know about the guy named Clark.
I can't find any strikeout line numbers, so we're not going to do that. Just so if you want to know the money lines, because we don't do run lines in baseball, because that's not really any point. They're all the same. The Angels are minus 300, plus 245 for the Royals. Over under at 8.5 runs, just like last time with the Yanks. The triple play of the week, though, a very fun one. It's going to be whether the Kansas City Royals will end with an odd or even number of runs.
I like that. I will start off just because I immediately had a thought come to mind. I'm going to take the Royals getting even runs because I think they'll probably get shut out. They're either going to get shut out with Shohei on the mound, or the Angels bullpen is going to blow it late and give up 1 run. I don't think there's any in between. I'm going to trust in Shohei. I'm going to trust in the Angels bullpen. I'm going to take the even runs. This strikes me as an under. Even though the Royals can get hammered, and they've got some no-namer guy coming in, you get 2 things from the no-namers. You either get 4 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, or you get 4 innings pitched, no earned runs. No in between. I'm going to go with the under. I think that this no-namer gets it done. I think the Royals definitely are not going to score on Ohtani. So to me, it just makes most sense to take the under. And I will also take the Angels money line for the reasons described previously.
I like that logic, and I'm going to agree with 2 of those 3. I like the Angels, which I don't think is necessarily a hot take. And I also like the even Kansas City Royals runs because the same reason. But I actually think this is going to be an over, and I think it's because the Angels absolutely smack them. I think this feels like an 11-0, 12-0 kind of game for some reason to me. So I'm gonna divert only in the one category there and say that this game goes over.
I'm going to also take a slight diversion. I'm going to go Angels. I'm going to go under. And I'm going to go odd.
Okay.
Amount of runs. I think they get
Yep,
1 run.
right.
I think they get 1 singular run, and that does it. Are we ready for the second of the triple header? I got another one for
Let's
us.
do
We are ready.
All right. We're going to
The
go
double triple header.
tomorrow night, Cleveland, New York, baby. We got to go with the interesting game. I think this is makes the most sense. I think most of the other games in the Eastern Conference are kind of washouts anyway. So the game is going to be Cleveland at the Garden. It's at New York. Currently the spread is -2 for the New York Knicks. Over under 211 points.
211, you said?
211.
Got it.
The prop that we're going to bet, Donovan Mitchell over under 29.5 points.
Dennis, you got any strong takes on this one as our resident NBA aficionado?
Hold on. I'm actually looking at this. My gut wants to say go with Cavs, baby, but okay, yeah, I got my take. I'm gonna roll with the Cavs there, and they're getting a couple points. This could be very well a close one, just like the rest of the series. Obviously, it's a big advantage to be at home for the Knicks. I just got a feeling, and then I'm gonna go with the Donovan Mitchell over, because if they're gonna win, he's definitely gonna go over that. And then I'm gonna go with the under, just because as I looked at it, neither of the first two games got over 200. So we had 198 and 197 as totals in the first two games of this series. And so I know I'm an over guy in the NBA, but playoffs are a different story. I think I've at least made them myself clear on that opinion, because defense does get played. And it certainly has in the first two games of this series, apparently, because it's not going over 200. So under.
I feel like, I don't know, it could just be me. I feel like a lot of games have been on the lower side. Um, it looks like I'm just doing a quick scan through. Looks
Sure.
like most of the games are getting over 211. Um, the Knicks Cavs is sort of the outlier. Everyone seems to be hitting 220-ish regularly. So that's kind of interesting. I tell you what, I haven't really watched any of this series. Just seen some clips, seen some
Sure.
highlights,
Sure.
saw the headlines.
Sure.
But I'm gonna stick to my guns. And my guns last week were that the top four seeds in the East were gonna take care of business and take care of business rather handily. So I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna take the Cavs. No bing bongs, no bing bongs here. I'm gonna take the Cavs to cover. Maybe they lose by one and we win anyway. Who knows? But I'm gonna take the Cavs. I'm gonna take the over. Um, just feels like, I don't know. Maybe both offenses aren't very efficient. Like I said, I have no clue about either team's offenses. But it just feels like a game where back in the Garden they can go shot for shot. So I'll take the over just for that. Um, and I'll take the under on Donovan Mitchell. I think they're gonna spread the ball out a little bit more. You'll see a number of guys over 20 points for the Cavs, and I think it'll be a full team effort. So I'll go Cavs. I'll go over on the points, and I'll go under on Mitchell hitting 29 and a half.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Um, you know what? I'm also gonna go with the Cleveland and the 2 points. I really want to say that the Knicks are gonna win this because they're at the Garden, it's home. First game back. They don't play a lot of playoff basketball at the Garden anymore
Correct.
nowadays. Um, but I like your take, Derek, on the under for Donovan. I'm gonna go under. Um, I think that it's just a classic go on the road, tough environment to the Garden, but the Knicks just don't play good. That kind of thing. Like both teams kind of
Sure.
don't show their best stuff. And
Sure.
and so maybe if the Knicks do win, at least I've got the under on Donovan to kind of cover myself there, because I'm very close to picking the Knicks to win. So I want to kind of play both sides on that.
That's fair. Hey, that's smart money. But yeah, lots of all three of us took the same money line picks for
Yep.
both games. We all took the Angels and we all took the Cavs, and it's gonna come down to those over under evens and odds, baby, to see who
It's
ends
a
up
fun
on
little
top.
one. It's a fun
It is a
little
fun.
50-50 to
It
throw
is.
in.
It is a fun little one. To date for season 2 of Garbage Time Takes Your Money, I have I am 6 wins and 5 losses. 6 wins and 5 losses. Dennis has 3 wins and 4 losses, and Bob is currently at 4 wins and 6 losses. So, um,
Ah,
could be better,
eh.
could be better, could be worse. I mean, it's really, I mean, it's we're 500.
That's right.
We're base.
Right
We're
where we
at
should
chance.
be.
I mean, we're at chance. We don't pretend to be elite gamblers. Um, it's just something we do for fun. But
Sure.
hey, I went 3 for 3 last week. Who knows? A 6 for 6 could be coming. Bob, I don't know if you watched the ending of last week's pod, but it was a disaster.
Oh
It was a
gosh.
disaster. I tried to have Dennis plug the socials,
Oh
and
no.
and it
Oh.
was just
Dennis, I'm gonna have to roll the tape on that. I must have missed that because
Oh, it was brutal. Oh my
I,
gosh. I think
what
I
did you
blocked that from my memory, Derek. I think I blocked it, and so I didn't even remember it until you just said that.
Dennis, do you remember what you called our podcast? Did you say that our Instagram handle was at Garbage Time Takes Your Money? Because it
You
wasn't
did.
Garbage
I
Time
said
Takes,
garbage time
because I
takes
had
your
to
money.
correct it. Yeah,
I
Dennis.
said garbage time takes your money like twice. Derek had to correct it, and then we forgot which garb time takes was
Correct.
which account was different, and we knew it was garb time takes. We just couldn't remember which one it was.
I
So
think we
it was a
went with
complete
that.
train wreck.
I
Train
think we
wreck.
went with the Twitter being Garb Time
We'll go with the
yes.
Twitter.
Okay.
Yes, we got it.
All
Yeah,
right.
So I
Garbage Time.
know that
Yeah,
we got. I knew the Instagram was garbage time takes. Like
yep.
that.
And we know the YouTube is Garbage Time Takes.
So we logicked our way through it, but it was a disaster.
Not enough
It really
characters
was.
allowed on Twitter, but luckily you have me back this week, so you can
That's right,
follow
Bob.
us at Garbage Time Takes on Instagram, at Garbage Time Takes on Twitter. Of course, you can find the link to our website in the description down below this video. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and of course share it with a friend if you think that they enjoyed it. We appreciate all your support. Hey, we got a lot of views on the last week's video. The boys were telling me. Very, very happy to see that. Let's see if we can get to 30 views this week. You know, we're closing
And we
in.
got let's shoot for 40, Bob.
Let's shoot for 40.
We got
You're right.
36. We got 36 last week. Small increments. Let's hit 40.
You're right. You're right. You just said
Hey,
we were on the
if you're watching
42nd
this, if you're
video
watching
too.
this, tell somebody else. Tell somebody else to come check us out. If you got this far, you had to have enjoyed it because you wouldn't be here right now listening to me say this.
Correct.
So send it to a friend.
Each one teach one, baby.
We appreciate the support. We
That's
appreciate
what we
the
need.
support.
That's
Love
what we
y'all.
need. All right.
Multi-level marketing. That's what we rely on.
Let's nail this section. Let's nail the outro though, right here. Let's not have a debacle on that.
Correct. Yeah, Bob. Great to have you back. A much smoother outro this time than it was last time. Highly recommend catching the train wreck that was last week's outro. It was hilarious. Roll the tapes, dang it. But yeah, couldn't have said it better myself than Bob does each and every week. As always, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you watching three dudes chop it up. Without further ado, in 3.
1. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.